Nigeria's National Assembly has approved a record-breaking 54.9 trillion naira budget for the 2025 fiscal year. This amount surpasses the initial proposal of 54.2 trillion naira by 700 billion. The budget allocation is as follows. Statutory transfers is 3.6 trillion naira. Debt service stands at 14.3 trillion naira. Recurrent expenditure is put at 13.6 trillion, while capital expenditure is 23.9 trillion naira. President Bola Tinubu had requested the budget increase from 49.7 trillion to 54.2 trillion, citing additional revenue generated by key government agencies. The approval came after the Senate and House committees on appropriations presented their reports during Thursday's plenary. Dr. Segun Ogundare is an economist. He joins me now for a breakdown of the 2025 budget. It's good to have you on the news.
Yeah, good evening. Thank you for having me here.
All right. There's an increase for 54.99 trillion naira. Talk to us about the implications of this increase and how the government will finance the additional expenditure.
Well, thank you. Good evening. Good evening, Nigerians. Actually, the increment, one will want to think on the way the government is going to get this financed. Actually, in recent years, we've been having issues with financing our budgets, and basically because of the different problems that we are having, terrorism, banditry, and in the south where you know the majority of the expenses are coming, you would want to believe with me the problem we are having there. In Bori, for recent time, oil production has not been going on. The president called of recent, and then, you know, we want to jack up our oil production. The Federal Inland Revenue Service is doing a great job. Nigerian Custom is doing a great job. So I want to believe that putting all of this together, the government will want to harness, you know, the present tranquility, sort of, that is in the south. Of course, I can boldly also say that we are winning the war over insecurity. So I want to believe that putting all of this together, the government will be able to do something reasonable on this budget. Of course, you want to believe that the president jacked this up of recent, saying that the custom exceeded their budget. So let's just be hopeful that 2025 is going to bring something positive in this government and in the nation generally.
Let's look at some of the specifics. The statutory allocation for statutory transfers for recurrent expenditure and capital expenditure. How do you think these will truly impact the nation's economic development, considering all the troubles we've had lately?
Well, if I still want to look at it, I want to still believe that our recurrent expenditure is still not too good. Of course, the capital expenditure, I mean, is not still reasonable compared to some other budget that are working in other climes. You know, the capital expenditure is not still too fantastic. We have the infrastructure, like I can see, that is 4.06 trillion. Education, 3.5 trillion, health, 2.4 trillion. All of this put together, yes, I think the government still need to do more. Okay, statutory transfer, 3.64 trillion, recurrent expenditure, 13.06, capital expenditure, this is still not too good. If you see our debt servicing, it is still too high. Though this government has been able to reduce the burden, but compared to what we have in the budget, I think it is still too way too high. So the government needs to look at the basics, economic basics, microeconomic indicators that, you know, that will help as much as possible, help in, you know, making the life of an average Nigerian better. But I want to say that compare the capital expenditure and the recurrent, the budget, I don't know. I'm just hoping that we'll be able to do something reasonable this year. But I think with a good will, the government will be able to do something reasonable. And more so, the National Assembly, who had passed this budget, also have an oversight function where that oversight function is being overlooked, is not working as expected. I'm not sure we are going to get out of the wood on this budget.
You talked about our debt profile. There is a projected deficit on the budget of 13.08 trillion naira. How adequate do you think this amount is, and what are the continuing implications of this deficit for the fiscal sustainability of the country? And maybe you can talk about some actions that the government can take.
Well, I think generally in Africa, Nigeria, so to say, we are still having the issue of debt servicing, and is really encroaching on our budgets. Is most of the time not making the government responsible and responsive to its citizenry, and it's a serious problem. I think what we can do to ameliorate this and to help ourselves get out of the woods is production. And we have to tame our excesses for foreign goods. We have to tame all of that. Government have to come up with a policy that will help local production, not just in the mouth, not just stated in the budget, but we have to be decisive about it. Some of the economies that are working today, India, China, and some of these people had at a time had to close their border, close their economy to, the importation of foreign goods. So these are some of the things that we can do to make the budget work. Because
is Nigeria, I mean, we tried that at some point, but it never really worked in practical terms. No borders were closed from what we get to hear from reports. But I just wanted to digress a little and ask you about the oversight function. You talk about the oversight function of the National Assembly.
Yes.
We are talking about 2025 budget, but how would you assess their oversight functions for the 2024 budget that is now, some would say, there's been no proper accounting?
Okay, well, I think the 2024 budget, we want to believe, probably because the government just came in, and we want to give them the element of the doubt. To me, the 2024 budget isn't really up to the task. But be that as it may, I would want at this platform, we put the past behind us. The National Assembly has to be totally independent in this regard. For instance,
I'm sorry, Doctor. I was actually referencing your assessment of the oversight functions that this National Assembly performed. How would you assess them? Did they did well, or you think that more needs to be done, especially now that we're talking about the 2025 budget?
Okay, I think 2024 oversight, by my own estimate, isn't too good. And then that shows in the performance of the budget. No wonder the government this time sort of were a little bit more decisive, careful in preparing and presenting the budget. The 2024 oversight, not too good. So I want the National Assembly to do more this time, so that everybody will be on there, to all those ministerial departments and agencies of government. There should be a way of reporting back. There should be a mechanism where budgets, the funds are located, are tracked, and what is done at a particular point in time is reported, and performances are evaluated. We are not going to wait till the end of the year and appraise ourselves. I think it should be day-to-day analysis, day-to-day evaluation, so that we will know where we are. The National Assembly should do more in their oversight function. That is what will make this budget to work. in my estimate.
I guess we'll come back to this conversation by the end of the year. This is, like you said, let's give them a chance. Thank you very much, Doctor, for giving us your time.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Good night.
Airline operators in Nigeria have called on the federal government to make available a single-window source of loans with low interest rates to support their operations. This was during a retreat in Abuja for operators, where they expressed worry at the non-availability of affordable sources of funding to expand their businesses, saying this puts them at a disadvantage when competing with their foreign counterparts.
The government should consider a single window source of loan for the aviation industry. We don't need grant. We don't want government to give us money free of charge. But aviation is one all over the world. We're competing with other operators who have access to loans at 2-3%. If you have to go to the bank today for commercial loan, it should not be anything less than 30%. The profit from aviation is very, very minimal. We can't even survive with that. If something is not done, it will mitigate, and obviously it will continue to suppress our opportunities to maximize the benefit of this beautiful policy of the President of the Federation, which is being championed by the Minister of Aviation.
You're watching tonight on News Central. A reminder of our top stories. National Assembly passes 54.9 trillion naira as budget for the 2025 fiscal year. Spurred by insecurity and growing food inflation, Southwest governors propose joint surveillance team and food hubs in the region. President Volodymyr Zelensky says no to any peace deal reached without Ukraine, insists on NATO membership. Governors in the southwest region of Nigeria on Thursday converged on Lagos State. The Lagos State Governor's Office in Ado-Ekiti for an extensive deliberation on critical issues affecting the region. News Center's Omolola Ololade was there.
The governor of Lagos State and chairman of the Southwest Governors Forum, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, on Thursday played host to the governors of Ogun, Oyo, Osun, Ondo, and Ekiti State, respectively. The governors, after deliberating on key issues, condemned the threat posed by suspect terrorists in the region, while encouraging its security synergy between the Nigerian police force and local security groups.
Establishment of a joint security surveillance. The forum agreed to appoint now special advisors on security in each state and to establish a joint surveillance monitoring team, which we believe will oversee and coordinate security efforts across the region. And as part of the resolution, the forum has committed to deploying advanced technology, including aerial surveillance systems that will enhance security operations. Additionally, the forum resolved to strengthen intelligence gathering by fostering a collaboration between our state security operatives, local security network, and of course the federal enforcement authorities.
The closed-door meeting also saw the governors commending the federal government for establishing the Southwest Development Commission and collectively agreed to situate the headquarters at Cocoa House in Ibadan. They also resolved to curb food price inflation, among others.
We believe also at the forum discussion will express concern with activities of unscrupulous middlemen who deliberately inflate food prices and commodities within the region. We therefore took a view and agreed to establish what we call a food inflation joint monitoring team, which we believe will foster interstate collaboration and it will mitigate food inflation. We also went further to jointly set individually logistics hub, as a means of ensuring, food security, food adequacy in each state, but also working collaboratively as a region together.
The 11-point communique After the meeting that lasted for almost 4 hours includes commendation of President Bola Tinubu in the sustained supply and distribution of petroleum products and the student loan scheme, as well as congratulating Lucky Ayedatiwa on his victory in the Ondo State governorship election held in November 16, 2024. In Lagos for News Central, I am Omolola Ololade.
To discuss the agenda and the outcome of the meeting, I'm joined now by Oladotun Hassan. He's the president of the Yoruba Council Worldwide. Thank you for giving us your time on the news. A lot of laudable mentions in that communique. A joint surveillance and monitoring team to coordinate security sort of stands out on its own. But how feasible is this? What would it entail? Will the team be an outside pull or from the security agencies that are already on the ground?
Well, it's very important we acknowledge the viability and the intelligence and the advanced resolution of the Southwest governors to have met and discussed vital issues of insecurity, of food security, of economic integration. And these have been on. This is not the first time the Southwest governors are at the forefront of discussing issues of this nature. But at this point in time, it's more critical because something draws our attention, and that is the invasion by the ISWAP. We know these are terrorists that are already within our domain. We've witnessed the bomb blast before. We've witnessed several attacks. And, this is now the time for all our obas to really see reason and jointly address the issue of insecurity. Because the governors have already put out their intentions to support with technology and also to raise the bar. But it's very important that the federal government must equally draw the line of synergy with the governors, because it will be impossible if there is no FIAC. There must be legal basis to ensure that the integration of security with local security, there is a legal basis that will give that an ample value. And that is why the Yoruba Council Worldwide have suggested to the Mr. President that let Mr. President approve the establishment of a national joint regional security network.
If I may interject here, and just, query the timeline. We have a security architecture already at the federal level. We also have a local regional body that has some credibility, Amotekun. We also have, local groups. I'm just wondering how this special team will be formed. Would it be outside what is currently existing? Because if that is the case, then how long will this take, considering the urgency of the need?
No. You need to understand some certain things from the governor. There is an already established security network. All they are talking about now is consolidation and building stronger synergy beyond political division. This is a time for the Yoruba people to reason together. Recently, these issues of religious that is coming towards Islamic tendency is trying in most ruthless way to affect some of the peace that we are already enjoying in Southwest. For instance, the issue of the Sharia is not part of our culture. But
there was curious.
Legs to it.
There was a curious silence, Oladotun.
The governors are coming together. No. The Oyo State governor addressed that issue. Because, let me tell you, there's no smoke without fire. We in Southwest, we are very vigilant, and we don't take any excesses. ISWAP is a terrorist group. We know their tendencies and how much havoc they've caused in the northern region. Seeing Southwest as their backline now is more dangerous. So for us, the security architecture we are talking about is a synergy of Amotekun OPC, and every other security apparatus in collaboration.
Don't lose your thoughts. I think you've made your point on that, but I don't want you to lose your train of thought on the conversation around the Sharia panel. Before the meeting, there was talk about, there might be some resolution from these governors as to the establishment of this panel that seemed to get a lot of support from the Islamic Council. So there was a silence, and I wanted you to speak specifically to that. You were talking about it, and then you moved on a bit.
Yes. It is very important that the governors take that information, very important, because a lot of our people are expressing fears of Islamization, because if there is no, there's a difference between when you had an intention to establish Islamic court, to inaugurate Islamic court, as at 7th of January, there was an intention to establish Islamic Sharia court in Oyo town. We stopped it. We raised the red flag that the Yorubas are, the way we are being wired is different. We are not wired to whereby, a menial community will just be thrown into a blaze as a result of amputation, as a result of the excesses of what Sharia cost in some other regions, whereby the argument that has been Christianity will be an issue. It's an insecurity on its own, and we want to draw the governor of Lagos State attention to please readdress that issue.
But you seem to look at the Sharia panel or the request to establish one as something that's totally not acceptable. But then we have Muslims, and the Islamic Council has come up to say that it is for Muslims, and not all Muslims even, for Muslims who are consenting to have their cases adjudicated by these panels.
I want to draw your attention. One of our demands that if they are coming up with this, Sharia law is only governable within 12 northern states. It's not a national law. It is a regional law that is predicated within the penal code of the Islamic environment, which are the northern states. So bringing a penal code system within the civil environment of the southern region is an aberration, legal aberration, constitutional aberration. So if anyone is now tussling our brain, now changing the Islamic court to a panel on its own, it must have been sanctioned by the National Assembly, and that has not been passed by the National Assembly. It is only a statutory body of government that has such right, not an association of Islamic Council. Islamic Council is not a government body. So if any private body is having such notion, we need to be very careful. I have a Muslim background, and I have a lot of family and relations and friends that are Islamic Muslim. But that is not to tackle their religious tenet, but to us to balance the security implication.
All right, I'm afraid
the jihadist invasion of the Oyo people. So in order not to drive away the real point, I want to draw the governors of the southwestern region to be very holistic. If they're coming up with Islamic law or Islamic Sharia, let them give us a Yoruba traditional law that we have already called the Wheel of Pink.
All right, I think I'm trying to gently interject so we can wrap up this conversation, because that's all the time we actually have. Sorry to interject, but we have to go. Thank you for speaking with us. We appreciate your time.
Thank you. God bless.
In a related development, a Southeast women group, Igbo Women Assembly, has called for an end to the alleged extrajudicial killings of in Anambra State by the state-owned vigilante group, otherwise known as Agune Chemba. The national president of the group, Nneka Chimezie, on Thursday in Umuahia says innocent people may be wrongly harmed by operatives if the trend is unchecked. She calls on Governor Chukwuma Soludo to wade into the matter.
We are not saying that the governor should not fight to secure the state. But please, arresting people and killing them is wrong. These are our youth. Even if they commit crime, we can arrest them and rehabilitate them, just like they do Boko Haram. Now, Ado-Ekiti cannot just go out there. We had a report of 2 young men working in a site, and they were shot and killed. Now, the question is, did these people open fire? Why didn't they arrest them, hand them over to the police to try them? I've seen on social media where they will pack over 50 youths in a truck and call them criminals. I hope they will not pack them to go and shoot. We are using this opportunity to call on the governor of Anambra State, Governor Charles Soludo, to please look into the activities of the Ado-Ekiti. We are very happy, about the cleansing, about trying to fight crime in Anambra State. But for any innocent man to die, I don't know the kind of crime you are fighting for an innocent.
The Edo State Governorship Election Petitions Court has adjourned its proceedings to March the 3rd for parties in the petition to adopt their final written addresses. This comes as the All Progressive Congress APC closed its case after 4 witnesses testified to substantiate its claims of victory in the Edo governorship election. Our correspondent, Joshua Imaraye, was at the tribunal and filed this report.
The All Progressives Congress says that it has closed this case at the ongoing Edo State Governorship Election Petition Court, which is being held in Nigeria's capital, Abuja. This comes after the party presented 4 witnesses, despite its earlier promise to present 28 witnesses before the court.
I haven't assessed the evidence of PDP, and they were supposed to call about 150 witnesses. They were only able to call just 19 witnesses. And I'm sure our lawyer believed that instead of helping them in their case, they decided to close their case because the evidence they brought up also has bettered our case.
They could not prove their case. Now, what do you want the court to do? The court should perform magic for you? It's not possible. I tell you for free that this petition died on arrival.
The People's Democratic Party, however, reacted to development at the tribunal.
The APC had told us, the third respondent in this case, that they had 28 witnesses to tender before the tribunal. And the 4 of them that were brought yesterday helped our case to substantiate our prayers that there was overvoting and there was non-serialization of sensitive materials. And there's a sense in which the councils saw that the witnesses were helping the PDP and decided not to call any more witnesses.
One of the counsels to the APC also aired the party's expectation on the tribunal's next course of action.
Paragraph 46 of the first schedule of the Electoral Act for us to file our respectful addresses. The respondents will start first since we called the evidence. We've been given 7 days. The petitioners will therefore have 5 days to respond. The respondents will have 3 days to reply on points of law. The petition has been adjourned to Monday, the 3rd day of March 2025 for adoption of our written addresses. Thereafter, the tribunal will give us a date for delivery of considered judgment.
With the APC, PDP and the Independent National Electoral Commission having closed their cases at the tribunal, all eyes will now be on March the 3rd for the presentation of their final addresses. In Abuja for News Central, I am Joshua Imaraye.
Many thanks, Joshua. Staying with court matters. A magistrate court sitting in Ado-Ekiti, Ekiti State, has struck out defamation charges filed by the police against rights activist Dele Farotimi at the instance of Aare Afe Babalola. The Nigerian police filed the charges after receiving Aare Afe Babalola's petition accusing Farotimi of defaming him in December 2024. Chief Magistrate Abayomi Adeosun struck out the case following request by police prosecutor Samson Osobu that nominal complainant Aare Afe Babalola has agreed to discontinue the suit. Counsel to Dele Farotimi, Kembi Adejare, confirmed they were served with a notice of discontinuation and the defense legal team has agreed. Outside of Nigeria, South Africa has held a memorial service to honor its soldiers killed in the Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC. President Cyril Ramaphosa, as Commander-in-Chief of the South African National Defense Force, SANDF, officiated the handover of the mortal remains of members who lost their lives in the DRC to their families. The memorial service took place at the Air Force Base, Swartkop. President Ramaphosa later delivered a tribute to the fallen troops, where he was joined by the Minister of Defense and military veterans, as well as Chief of the SANDF, General Rudzani Mafawaya. The president had directed that the national flag be flown at half-mast at all flag stations around the country for 7 days as a sign of respect for the fallen soldiers. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky says he will not accept any agreements about Ukraine that do not include his country in talks. This was after U.S. President Donald Trump jettisoned 3 years of his country's policy and announced he would likely meet soon with Russian President Vladimir Putin to negotiate a peace deal in the almost 3-year war in Ukraine. Trump's change of tack seemed to identify Putin as the only player that matters in ending the fighting and looked set to sideline Zelensky as well as European governments in any peace negotiations. The development the Ukrainian leader has described as very dangerous. President Volodymyr Zelensky has also reaffirmed his call for Ukraine to join the National Atlantic Treaty Organization, NATO, emphasizing that Russian President Putin cannot be trusted to negotiate a lasting peace. Business News is next after this break. Perpetua is here with the latest business updates. It's good news, isn't it, that Nigeria has met the OPEC oil production target, Perpetua?
Well, 1.5 million barrels per day is a positive development considering where we are coming from. But Nigeria has produced over 2 million barrels per day before now, and thankfully, that's the target for 2025. It's my hope that we will not just do that, but will also exceed that. That's a tall order, if you ask me. But of course, we'll take a break now. When we come back, I'll bring you the full story. Stay with us.
Business News in association with Money Master PSB, the easy way to master your money.
Nigeria's daily crude oil production rose to 1.5 million barrels per day in January, meeting its OPEC production quota for the first time. This marks a 3.6% increase from December 2024, solidifying Nigeria's position as Africa's top oil producer ahead of Algeria and Congo. However, secondary sources reported a slight decline to 1.49 million barrels per day. OPEC noted that overall production fell among member nations with declines in Nigeria, United Arab Emirates and Venezuela. The report also highlighted that Nigeria's output is expected to rise further as the Dangote refinery nears full capacity. The Nigerian government has ordered all federal ministries, departments and agencies operating in states to stop using commercial bank accounts, reinforcing compliance with the Treasury single account policy. The directive issued by Accountant General Dr. Oluwatoyin Madei mandates strict adherence to financial management reforms, with exceptions requiring presidential approval. She urged federal pay officers to ensure transparency and accountability, warning against violations. The government is also constructing new federal pay offices to address operational challenges. The directive aligns with ongoing efforts to enhance financial discipline and regulatory compliance across federal agencies. To the stock market now. The domestic equities market sustained its bullish momentum for the third consecutive session this week, driven by gains in Dangote Cement, which rose 10% from 431 naira to 474 naira 10 kobo, gaining 43 naira 10 kobo today. As a result, the month-to-date and year-to-date returns rose to 4.5% and 6.1% respectively. In terms of trading activities, Universal Insurance emerged as the most traded stock by volume at 23.23 million million units, while Zenith Bank was the most traded stock by value at 839.41 million naira. Now let's take a look at the snapshot. Looking at the snapshot now, you will see that the percentage change is 125 basis points. That's 1.25%. And then for market capitalization, this is another high, 68.12 trillion naira. And this is a big one. It's a roaring of the lion right here, if you ask me. The all-share index shattered all charts. That's what it is. 109,172.04. That's what the all-share index. Now let's take a look at sectoral performance. For sectoral performance, the financial services sector inched up today, with banking index closing 0.59% up and insurance 0.07% up. Now, this is the banking sector right here, 59 basis points up, insurance up 7 basis points. And now the oil and gas sector emerged as the sole loser of the day. It shed 23 basis points. That's for the oil and gas sector. Away from that, consumer goods inched up, driven again by notable activity in agriculture stocks. Talk about Presco, which gained 500 basis points today, and Okomo Oil, which also gained 463 basis points. That, of course, gave us what we saw in consumer goods, 44 basis points high right there. For industrial goods, I mean, it was supported by the rally in Dangote Cement. Dangote Cement has actually been moving the market since the beginning of this week. And so it's emerged as the top gaining index with an impressive 4.66%. That is for the industrial goods. And finally, the official foreign exchange rate depreciated by 0.2% to 1,515 naira 6 kobo per dollar. And that's our offering on Business News Tonight. I am Perpetua Fasomi Peter. Tonight continues.
Welcome to Sports News. Onyechi is here. Onyechi, over to you now.
Thank you so much, Felicity. Now, in the world of sport, it's all about the groupings for the Under-20 African Cup of Nations, but I will tell you more on that shortly after this break. Welcome to sport. Earlier today, the draws for the 2025 Under-20 African Cup of Nations was conducted by the Confederation of African Football in Cairo. 7-time champions Nigeria have been handed a tough draw after being drawn against Egypt, Morocco and South Africa in Group B. Of course, in that group, the Tournament of Death, as they call it, the Group of Death, featuring 3 former champions, Morocco winners of the 1997 edition and Egypt 3-time champions in 91, 2003, 2013 bring plenty of pedigree to the group. South Africa, though yet to leave the Under-20 African Cup of Nations trophy, finished as runners-up in 1997 and remain a competitive force at this level. The tournament will be played in the Ivory Coast from the 26th of April to the 18th of May 2025. Moving away from there, the Nigerian Football Federation has overturned the rulings of the Nigeria Premier Football League, which deducted 3 points each from Bendel Insurance and Nasarawa United. The NPFL had fined Insurance and deducted 3 points and 3 goals from their haul after violence marred the league clash against visiting side Canopilas at the Samuel Ogbemudia Stadium in Benin City on November 11. With the Nigerian Football Federation verdict, Bendel Insurance climbed from 15th to 10th position and now on 31 points with 1 goal difference. The NFF also reversed the point deduction issued against Nasarawa United for their actions during the home fixture in Lafia against Rivers United on December 22. The NFF affirmed the fines against Nasarawa United but recommended the match commissioner for demotion. Nasarawa United now have been lifted from 19th to 17th with 25 points. After a 5-year legal battle, a high court in Ghana presided over Justice Marie-Louise Simons has discharged former Ghana Football Association President Kwesi Yakataichi and his co-accused. The case faced significant hurdle, particularly in securing testimony from key witnesses. The 5 prosecution witnesses, including investigative journalist Anas Sarimoyao Anas, refused to testify unless allowed to wear a mask. The case originated from an expose by Anas titled November 12, which was aired in Ghana on June 6, 2018. The video captured Yakataichi allegedly taking $65,000 from an undercover reporter pretending to be a businessman. The video also captured top officials of Ghana Football Association, including Ekiti allegedly taking bribes to influence the invitation of players to the national team. And now to Formula One, reigning constructors champion McLaren. They have become the first Formula One team to reveal their 2025 car ahead of the start of the new season. McLaren ran the MCL 39 at Silverstone on Thursday morning with Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri sharing 200 kilometers of permitted track time, with all 10 of the sport teams obliged to reveal their 2025 liveries at F1's special 75th anniversary. The launch event at the O2 Arena in London next Tuesday. McLaren ran the car with an alternative geometric camo design in shades of orange and black. McLaren ended a 26-year wait for a constructor's title by coming from behind to finish ahead of Ferrari and Red Bull, and will go into the pre-season testing later this month ahead of the season opener in Australian Grand Prix on March 16 as the favourites to retain the crown for the year. And that's it, the word of sport. I am Onyinyechi Obaro. The news continues.
Ado is here to give us updates in the world of entertainment. I hear love is still in the air.
It's Valentine's Eve, and people would expect that everybody is in love. But streaming giant has something spectacular for us to find out. I'll give you all the details shortly.
Okay.
Entertainment news in association with Glow Unlimited.
All right, now streaming giant Spotify has revealed a significant surge in heartbreak song streams in Nigeria during the Valentine's Day season, showing a 626% increase from 2022 to 2024. Now, the data was shared in a statement by Fiona Okumu, Spotify's head of music for Sub-Saharan Africa in Lagos. Okumu explained that the rise in heartbreak song streams reflects Nigerians turning to music to process their emotions. Now, with male listeners streaming heartbreak songs at a notable high rate, the females at, so for the male, it's 362% compared to the females at 169%. Now, she suggested that this indicates that men may resonate more with heartbreak and use music as a private outlet. While Valentine's Day is often associated with love, heartbreak remains a common theme, and the Nigerian men are pressing play on the pain more than expected. That's what she said.
I suspect this report.
Wait, see, why?
How come men are more pain?
Trust me, men are going through a lot. We just don't say it. We rather, listen to music.
Fair enough.
And
you
let
guys
it out.
always bottle it in.
Exactly.
But at least there is an outlet, music.
All right. Now, quickly, let me run through this as Sean Diddy Combs has filed a $100 million defamation lawsuit against NBC Universal, Peacock TV, and Ample Entertainment over defamatory claims in a documentary, Diddy, The Making of a Bad Boy. Now, the lawsuit filed in New York alleges that the media companies falsely accused Combs of serial murder, sex trafficking, and other crimes based on statements from sources like Al B. Shore and Rodney Jones. Now, the documentary, which aired on January 14th, explores allegations against Combs, including involvement in death of several people like Biggie Smalls and his former ex-girlfriend, that's Kim Porter. Now, Combs' attorney criticized the media companies for exploiting scandals without evidence, claiming this harmed his reputation and economic standing. Now, Combs is seeking $100 million in damages for the damage and caused by these false accusations. Well, what do we say? It's Diddy again.
That story is just too sad.
It's too sad. It's too sad. Well, that's all we have on entertainment tonight.
To wrap things up, let's bring you a recap of our top stories. The National Assembly passes 54.9 trillion naira as budget for the 2025 fiscal year. Spurred by insecurity and growing food inflation, Southwest governors propose joint surveillance team and food hubs in the region. President Volodymyr Zelensky says no to any peace deal reached without Ukraine, insists on NATO membership. You can catch up on all the latest news by watching News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Apple TV and on YouTube. Thank you very much for watching. Good night.